now the current total death toll from Hurricane Ian climbing to at least 104. At least 97 people in Florida alone as recovery efforts continue this morning. What we know is over 1,600 Floridians have been rescued and some communities are still underwater days after this massive storm. Joining me right now is Florida Congressman Greg Steube. He is a member of the Judiciary and Foreign Affairs Committees. He represents portions of hard-hit Lee County. Congressman, thanks very much for being here, and thank you for your efforts. I know that it is a down day and down month in Florida. Can you give us an update on the recovery efforts? What are you seeing on the ground?
Yeah, we are still doing search and rescue missions. This is far from over, and unfortunately, I think that death count that you just recited of the people that have perished here in Florida is only going to rise. I was in Hardee and DeSoto County and Charlotte County yesterday. In places like Arcadia, the water is just getting below mobile home rooftops. We're starting to see communities that 2 days ago we didn't see because they were completely underwater. Houses that were completely underwater. So unfortunately, I think as rescue crews are going to be able to get into these areas that otherwise we weren't able to get in because of floodwaters, you're going to see that death count go up. In places like Arcadia, we still have massive historic flooding, all historic charts, the worst flooding that area has ever seen. In places like Charlotte, you have some of the worst wind damage that we have ever seen. But I tell you, Americans are resilient. Floridians are resilient. Neighbors helping neighbors, communities rising up and helping each other in these very desperate times. But it's going to take us a considerable amount of time to repair the damage that was here, and it's never going to look the same.
Yeah, I want to ask you about that timing and the cost. I spoke with Congressman Byron Donalds over the weekend, who is also right in the thick of it in terms of the areas being hardest hit. And he's talking about billions and billions in cost and perhaps a couple of years to get things right. Here's Byron Donalds with me on Sunday. Watch.
I mean, we're going to be well over $5 billion. It's going to be higher than that, but we don't have a cost estimate yet. In terms of resources, to be blunt, I think in some areas it's going to be 2 years of recovery. 2 years, 3 years to restore Southwest Florida. We're going to move as quickly as we can, but in some parts, it's going to be a couple of years before it's fully rebuilt.
Congressman, do you agree with that? And what kind of support do you have? We know that the insurance industry was already saddled and declining before the storm. We know that there have been questions about the resources that FEMA brings to the table. Do you feel you have what you need? And what are your thoughts in terms of timing and cost?
I'm leading a letter of the delegation, the Florida delegation, to ask specifically for a supplemental appropriations of disaster relief specifically to Florida. And I'm asking the Democrats to not fill this full of pork and Green New Deal and Ukraine funding and all these other things. We need to focus on what Florida needs. We're absolutely going to need a federal disaster supplemental. I think the number that Byron threw out there, I think that's going to be 1% of the damage overall that we've seen. Parts of his district, like Sanibel Island, are completely destroyed. Parts of my district are going to have to be rebuilt. We have a very tough property insurance market here in Florida as it is. We had, leading up to this storm, several insurance providers, property insurance providers, fail or cancel or leave the state. So that's going to be a huge problem. And as those insurance policies either get canceled or they're not being fulfilled, that's going to rely upon FEMA. And FEMA is going to have to pick up that slack, which is why we need a disaster supplemental. I've already spoke to Leader McCarthy. I'm leading a letter for the delegation asking the Democrats, who obviously are in control of the House right now, to do a clean supplemental when we go back to Washington.
Well, look, I'm told that when the government funding runs out December 16th, the Democrats are going to come up with more spending in the NDAA or more spending to try to jam in as much green spending as they can. Meanwhile, you've got Kamala Harris the other day saying that any aid coming from the federal level is going to be based on equity, based on race. I mean, it was absolutely horrifying comments. The White House knows it was horrifying because they're trying to explain it away, saying she was talking about long-term investment. She was very clear, saying the aid is going to be based on equity.
That's a completely racist statement by her. I hope that's really not their intent, and I hope that they're going to get the aid out to the people that need it, regardless of race. Race should not be a factor here. Everybody that lived in Arcadia was affected the same. Everybody that lived in Port Charlotte was affected the same. And the funding should not be based on anything other than need. And right now, Americans and Floridians have a desperate need to get resources to get back on their feet.
And now, Congressman, the Democrats are raising questions over the timing of evacuation orders in Lee County. What happened, and was the evacuation order the right order?
Here's the real challenge with storms like this. I mean, leading up to the day before, I live in Sarasota, leading up to the day before, all the different funnel cakes and spaghetti models and all of that had it going way north of us in Tampa or Tampa Bay. Some models had it going all the way into the Panhandle. So very quickly things shifted. And in that short period of time, you're not able to evacuate a large amount of people. So a lot of these communities did shelter-in-place orders because we were going to be and did see winds up to 130, 125 miles an hour. I think right now it's a little playing, Monday morning quarterback, questioning the decisions that local government was trying to make in a less than 24-hour period of time. To sit back and try to question a very conservative Republican area, obviously, is, again, politicizing a catastrophic event. Let's focus on getting people safely out of their homes. We're still doing search and rescue missions, and focus on giving people the resources they need so they can eat, they can sleep, they can have water. That's what we're focused on down here. And, of course, Washington's and the Democrats are focused on politicizing this.
That's just outrageous. Congressman, our love and support and prayers are with you and your constituents and family and friends and all Floridians. We pray for you. Thank you so much for being here. Congressman Greg Steube joining us. If you'd like to donate to the Hurricane Ian relief efforts, visit redcross.org/FoxForward so you can help with that relief. Quick break, and then gasoline prices rising for a second week.